City. Councilman Small was indicted by a state grand jury. This was an attorney general case, not a county prosecutor case. The case came to trial last fall, and this spring a jury exonerated Councilman Small and the other 5 people on trial with him of all charges. In 6 months, nearly 6 months of trial time, the Attorney General was unable to prove any of the charges they had so quickly made. Shortly after that trial, within a matter of weeks, on Councilman Small's behalf, I notified the Attorney General that we intended to file a lawsuit alleging that this was at best a negligent and at worst a malicious investigation and prosecution. Under the statutory framework, the Attorney General has 6 months to contact us, to speak to us about the case, and to attempt to resolve the case. That statutory period is important because it provides the state or a municipality or a county with an opportunity to save taxpayers' dollars by sitting down and resolving claims such as this rather than let them result in lawsuits. On 2 occasions, we reminded the Attorney General of its statutory obligation to attempt to speak to us and attempt to resolve the case, and we were ignored. We did not receive a telephone call or a letter back. They've shown no interest in resolving this claim, even though they are so obviously wrong. We therefore filed suit. We filed a civil complaint against the state, against 3 of the state prosecutors and against 2 of the state investigators. It's a custom or a policy of the state Attorney General. The complaint's not yet been answered. My expectation is that it eventually will be answered, and I don't expect any denials. I don't expect any substantive defenses. My expectation is that the Attorney General and the prosecutors and the investigators will simply attempt to hide behind a cloak of immunity, saying that we're state prosecutors and we're state investigators and we have statutory immunity and you really can't do anything to us. And that'll be resolved by some judge fairly early on in the proceedings. The basic problem in the Attorney General's position is that they did no meaningful investigation. What they did do is they approached this case like schoolyard bullies. They came into town quickly. They were looking to cause trouble for somebody in that Democratic primary. They corrupted a drug offender who was then cooperating with the state police, pushed him into a political arena where he had no experience, and they accepted his word that he had information about fraud in the primary, none of which was true. If you fast forward 1.5 years to the defense portion of the trial, this source, this drug offender's source, took the stand for the defense and told the jury under oath he had never provided any such information to the drug offender. The defense was able to figure that out, but the state police and the state prosecutors never tried. The state prosecutors and investigators also coaxed and coerced and forced incriminatory statements out of two of the defendants, who they then labeled as their star witnesses. Anybody who followed this in the newspapers knows that one of the 2 star witnesses never even got to cross-examination. There are witnesses who take the stand and then wither and collapse under cross-examination. This star witness withered and collapsed under direct examination by his own prosecutors because he couldn't deliver his scripted lines, and he had to be withdrawn in front of the jury. The second star witness, conceded that he was a serial liar and really had no incriminating evidence. Now, the jury very promptly acquitted everyone charged of all charges. the lay jurors could see that there was no case to be made here, none. Yet, experienced state prosecutors and investigators could not see that. Our complaint says, in effect, that this case should have never gone to the grand jury. These state prosecutors and investigators hoodwinked the grand jury and attempted to hoodwink the petit jury, and they failed. Marty had done nothing wrong. There was no fraud in that election. Yet they put together a case that was doomed to failure, and they put in jeopardy a dozen lives for 10 years of imprisonment, because those are the penalties. They occupied a Superior Court judge for 6 months when he could have been doing other meaningful work, and they misused the criminal system. Ray Charles, in a dark room, could have seen the collapse of this case coming. And these prosecutors and investigators turned a blind eye toward it. They did their very best to invent a case against Marty, and they failed. Good evidence that they knew they shouldn't have done this is the fact that after the jury sent them back to Trenton, they dismissed all remaining charges against 6 other defendants, in effect confessing that they had no case to start with. Now, those are the bases for our civil suit. One remaining thing needs to be said. There's a public purpose to filing a lawsuit like this. It goes beyond Marty and the damage done to him and his career and his family, and it even goes beyond the damage done to the other people who were wrongly charged. If we were in another country, if we were in Egypt or Syria, governmental abuses might result in riots in the street, CNN broadcasting it all over the world. That's not the way it works here. We have identified a serious government abuse, a misuse of the power to indict somebody by the grand jury, a misuse of the power to bring somebody into a courtroom for 6 months. And the way we're going to resolve that is to publicly expose it. This lawsuit is going to be a vehicle to show the people in Atlantic County and the people throughout New Jersey exactly what the Attorney General and the state police did to Marty, so that perhaps they won't be able to do this to somebody else. They tried this with Marty in 2006, alleging an 11-count absentee ballot fraud case. We tried that case, and in 30 minutes, a jury exonerated Marty of everything. The second time they tried it, they tried a lot harder. They did a lot of things they should not have done. And this needs to be exposed. We need to have a public litigation process here which will show everybody in the state that their tax dollars are not being well spent on prosecutions like Marty's. Now, Marty and I will take any questions you may have.
Marty, what do you want people to know about you right now, having gone through what you've gone through?
Well, it's been a very difficult situation for myself, my family, as well as my co-defendants and their family. We did absolutely nothing wrong, and the jury saw that. You know, with me having 2 young children and my wife and my family, it's my obligation, you know, to fight back. As Mr. Jacob said, it's bigger than Marty Small. It's about the other people out there as well that get falsely prosecuted, sometimes go to jail. Fortunately, thank God I didn't, but you know, I was in a situation where my life was on the line. And you know, to go through that whole process, 6 months, you know, losing my main source of income, which my job at the Atlantic City Board of Education, not having, you know, no pay, it, you know, did damage to me financially. If they looked to damage me financially, they did that. And now it's our time to fight back. In addition to that, it's damaged my wife and I's credit score, which can hurt us for a lifetime. And you know, we just seeking justice.
How about your reputation? Do you think you've taken a hit in some people's minds? I mean, there's probably some people who might not know how the trial ended, but they remember hearing something about Marty Small being dirty.
Well, the people that love me are going to love me no matter what. And the people that's never going to support me is going to do the same. And those people in the middle, you know, whatever way the wind blows, that's the opinion they'll have. But yes, it has damaged my reputation. I mean, it's like I'm, remembered as the guy who won 2 criminal cases instead of all the positive things that I've done here in my community.
But here's what it hasn't damaged or dampened. We want everybody to participate in the political process. Whether you're black or white or Hispanic or no matter what you are, we want everybody to participate in the political process, and Marty is a believer in that. And look what's happened to him. For participating in the political process in 2006, he got indicted when he didn't do a blessed thing wrong. For participating in the political process in 2009, he got indicted when he didn't do a blessed thing wrong. Marty is, in a very positive way, taking this step to make sure that other people who want to participate in the political process, who want to gather votes, who want to be in a primary, are not dissuaded from doing that for fear of the Attorney General coming down from Trenton and giving them an indictment that they don't deserve.
Why do you think the state actually targeted you in this?
Which time?
Look, both times. Like, what do you think the motive was behind the state from doing this?
I think the motive for the second prosecution is clear, and that's their failure in the first prosecution, and that is exactly what we said in our complaint. We think there is a big element of sour grapes here. Only that can explain a 3-month investigation when other Attorney General cases are investigated for years, not months. Only that can explain the use of witnesses who don't know anything incriminatory, but yet are willing to say that they do in order to get promised probationary sentences. Only that can explain a state prosecutor putting words in the mouth of one of the witnesses. As to the first prosecution, I still ask myself the same question. Why in the world can this look like a crime to experienced state prosecutors when 12 jurors in 30 minutes can figure out that it's not?
Do you think the race for governor, does that factor pretty heavily into this? That Christie had built quite a reputation as a corruption buster, if you will, and that maybe the other side wanted to get in on some of that kind of action? Do you think that race for governor weighs heavily in this?
Well, we make no allegations in the complaint or elsewhere against Governor Christie.
Well, he wasn't in yet. I meant mainly the Governor Corzine. It was his Attorney General, I think, that probably was the motivator behind this.
I do think that within the Attorney General's office, there is a preoccupation with developing white-collar and political cases in Atlantic County. I've been in this business a long time, and I've heard that spoken from the mouths of state representatives. Now, do I know anything specific? I was not a fly on the wall in any conference, but I do know they have a deep concern about being able to do what the federal authorities have done, for example. Now, whether that is an element in what they did here, I don't know. I mean, somebody really went overboard here. We have spelled out in our complaint how state prosecutors carefully led and scripted at least one of these witnesses into a bogus statement. Was part of his motivation political? You know, we will find out.
And in layman's terms, what do you have to get past in order to, overcome their immunity claims should they make it? Can you just walk us through that?
Generally, every level of government, whether it's federal or state or county or municipal, is immune from pretty much anything that it does. We have a State Tort Claims Act which provides enormous protections to every level of government, and what we need to demonstrate to a court is that when these state prosecutors and investigators were preparing this case, they weren't doing it in the proper discharge of their duties. They were following a state practice or custom to think about getting an indictment first and whether you could prove it second. They were poorly trained by the state. A prosecutor's job is not to make charges. A prosecutor's job is to get to the truth. And these prosecutors and investigators, in our complaint, we have alleged, lacked that training. And we've got to demonstrate that all through this investigative phase, if you can call it that, they were not investigating at all. They had abdicated their responsibilities to investigate. They were just browbeating, pushing, and bullying witnesses into statements that they wanted to hear so they could construct a case. Those are the things we've alleged in our complaint. Those are the things we will be able to prove because we have most of those things in print right now. We even have a videotape of their star witness collapsing in front of the jury because he couldn't recite the lines they gave him. If we are able to prove those things to the satisfaction of a judge will hopefully find that they are not protected by any species of immunity, statutory or otherwise.
Was that the guy who was dry heaving into the trash can?
Yes.
Hey,
An unusual event.
Does your complaint contend more of an incompetent prosecution than a malicious prosecution, or both?
Both, but we're calling a spade here, and this was a maliciously motivated prosecution. It is very hard to accept a level of incompetence so low that a state prosecutor would be literally feeding lines to a witness, and we have that in print. We know it happened. We can prove it happened. That goes far beyond incompetence.
Do you have an exact dollar figure you're seeking in this?
We do not. If they serve a demand on us for a damage claim, we'll respond to it. But at this point, we do not. We have asked for compensatory damages. We've asked for punitive damages to teach them a lesson, and we've asked for an award of counsel fees. And these will amount to significant figures.
Do you have an estimate on how much the state approximately spent on this prosecution?
No, I don't. But if you add up both sides, it will be a daunting amount. You've got to remember that with the exception of Marty, everyone had a lawyer appointed by the public defender. So this entire case, except for Marty, was paid for at state expense. And start doing some arithmetic. What's half a year's salary for a Superior Court judge? These public defender bills for the other half dozen people are substantial. What's half a year's salary for each of the, I believe, 3 attorney generals assigned to this case? Half a year's salary for the investigators. Just off the top of your head, you can come up with $1 million in direct salaries for the people that try the case.
One more. The genesis of this, when Councilman Small was called to testify before the grand jury as a fact witness, not a target of the investigation, do you think you were dealt straight with that matter?
We were not, and we've said that in the complaint. We were told that he was not a target, and that was not true. He clearly was a target. They had every intention of indicting him. They attempted to deceive us, and we have spelled that out, giving dates and times and places in the complaint. That is another thing we will prove to a civil jury.
Just to go back on your question when you said, damages. All the damage and the damage of reputation, the damage of my family and I's financial state, you can't put a figure on that.
Can you talk a little bit more about the whole concept of this being bigger than Marty Small? What else are you hoping? Can you just talk a little bit more about what you're hoping to prove at the state level for other people that might be in your position?
Well, I'm just blessed to have the resources and have a firm like Jacobs and Barbone in my corner. They did a phenomenal job both times, and they're going to do a phenomenal job for me with this case. As far as anything else with, basically having the thought of, someone else going through this. A lot of people are in jail right now because of trumped up charges. A lot of people, don't have the ability to fight back. And this is for, those people that can. Like I said, it's bigger than me. I'm defending my family. I'm defending my reputation. And, I just look forward to this being behind me.
Here's a supplement to that answer, if you want a little historical perspective. Are any of you old enough to remember the 1991 Atlantic City corruption case, where the Attorney General indicted virtually every sitting member of the governing body, the zoning board, and the planning board? They got virtually everybody.
ComServe, right? Yeah.
Well, they call it ComServe. I never liked that name. I call it the Atlantic City corruption case. That case was mishandled by the state police and the Attorney General. They took their racketeering case to trial, and we beat their pants off. After 4 months in trial, everybody got acquitted of everything, with one exception. One councilman took a conviction on a count or two. There was an internal investigation by the Attorney General after that. It was very critical of everything the state police did and everything the prosecutors did. And a result of that case was the Attorney General announced they would no longer approach cases on a horizontal basis, meaning they would no longer have a team of investigators and prosecutors investigate the matter and present it to the grand jury, and a different team try the case. So they changed the way they did business as a result of that specific case. What I said earlier here is this case needs a good, thorough public disclosure, because what they did here to Marty and to the others was just plainly wrong. Taxpayer dollars were spent on persecuting a young guy involved in Atlantic City politics who didn't do a blessed thing wrong. What was their motivation? We don't know. We're going to try hard to find out. But what I do know is they shouldn't have done any of this. It was maliciously thought out and executed.
Ever brought a case like this on before?
Yes.
Yeah.
We have several within the office over the years.
I know that the case was filed late November. Why did it take you almost a month to announce it publicly?
Well, we filed the complaint during November. I don't have the precise date for you. And as of today, we do not have back proof of service on anyone. And we received some inquiries about whether there would be a case filed and what is its status and so on. So rather than wait until we get back proof of service that everybody is officially served by the prosecutor, we felt we'd deal with it now.
Yeah. What is that unusual that not everybody has been served yet?
No, we send things out for service by the sheriff of whatever county the person resides in, and sometimes it happens overnight. Today in the office right now we have an overnight service which was given yesterday, made today. Sometimes it takes a month. Depends how busy the sheriff's departments are.
Anything else?
That's it. Thank you all for coming.
Can I grab you for a couple quick questions? Just like one-on-one. Just how are you feeling right now? How do you think today went with your lawyer?
Well, our goal is to make it public what's going on with the lawsuit. And I mean, it's a great feeling that I got a fighter like Ed Jacobs in my corner, and we're going all the way with this.
You talk about having him in your corner. How great is that? It seems like you guys are got good things going on, really.
Yes, well, this law firm, Jacobs and Barbone, has been great to me and my family the last 5 years, and I wouldn't have it no other way for anyone else to represent me moving forward, because they know the case, they know the criminal element, they know all the evidence, so I feel good.
You feel like this is day one, chapter one, getting your life back on track, announcing this to the public, and going forward with this now?
Yes, because, I mean, people have to understand. Last 5 years, spending a lot of money that could have been, for my children's higher education. And this caused great harm to me and my family. As I stated earlier, it caused damage to my wife and I's credit, which, can linger on a lifetime. And, today, with this announcement, we mean business. Something has to be done for the irresponsibility of the State Attorney General's office and incompetence as well.
That's pretty much all I have.
Marty, this civil suit that the attorney at Jacobs has brought on your behalf, you're obviously looking for vindication. You've now been through this twice, this grind.
Yes, well, thank God for the combined 32 individuals in Atlanta County that acquitted me in these two cases. That was my vindication. I thank God that, he showed me favor. But when you have to sit isolated, going to court every day when you should be going to work, providing for your family, happen to take a leave of absence 6 months with no income from your job, it's tough. As I stated, we have 2 young children, and as a man, not being able to provide for your family to your fullest extent, it hurts. And just all the other stress and other things that come into, waiting to see if you're going to be found guilty or, guilty or not guilty. Which from day one I maintained that not only was I not guilty, that I was innocent. But, one of the other things, to sit there and await my fate on my son's first birthday, was really tough. Because, the jury had the case and, if things went the wrong way, wouldn't have been home to celebrate my son's birthday. So, you know, all the pain and suffering, all the stress, you know, that myself, my co-defendants, and their families went through as well. You know, somebody has to pay for that.
So vindication obviously is not just being acquitted by a jury of your peers, but getting full vindication. This shouldn't happen to you or anyone else.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Marty. Thank you.
Perfect. Appreciate it.
Anything else?
Hold on.
Have a great holiday, man.
When you running for mayor?